Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Under Review with Jared John. Each episode will analyze the impact the sports world has on society, such as gender equality, race, economy, history, and much more. So step up to the plate and come listen in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Under Review, Episode 5. I want to say thank you for being here with me. I really do appreciate it. Once again, I have a very special guest, but before I get into that, you know what I like to do now? I like to just show great videos. And here's another one by ESPN. They've been kind of doing this, showing videos, kind of giving that positive feedback. And growing up, there was nothing better than going to a baseball game and trying to catch a ball. And in this video, you see this little kid and he has his glove wide open, but then he closes his eyes, and when he opens them, it's a Major League Baseball player catching it right above his head, and his reaction is just priceless. And I always wish that was me. And I caught a couple balls in the ballpark, Yankee Stadium and in Fenway. However, that moment right there is absolutely amazing, and I want to thank ESPN for putting that up because that was unbelievable. Once again, today I have a very special guest. He grew up in Sparta, New Jersey. He went to play basketball at Ohio State for all 4 years. He went undrafted, but he did play in the Continental Basketball Association. He went to then play in the NBA and won a championship with the Houston Rockets in that 93-94 season. He also played for the New York Knicks, and as well, he also played in the Australian League. He went and became an assistant coach for the 76ers in 2003. And in 2004, he had a brief period with the Orlando Magic as their head coach. And he also was the assistant coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2006 to 2011. In 2011, he became the Ohio State basketball coach assistant, where he graduated. That was his alma mater. And then he later returned to the NBA and is currently the assistant coach for the Atlanta Hawks. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Chris Jent. Well, Mr. Jent, thank you so much for joining me today. I want to say thank you for being here and hope everything is doing well around where you guys are. How's everything going today?
It's good, just kind of life is, as usual for the last couple of months, but it's good. Everything's going well.
So before you came on, I kind of gave the viewers an introduction to your playing career and now to your coaching career. And I want to start off with your playing career. You've played kind of around the globe in a way. What were the differences between playing in, say, the Australian League compared to the NBA?
Obviously, the talent's a little different. The NBA, best players in the world, but I think what changes league to league is more the fan experience. Those close, like tight quartered arenas that you would play in overseas, and it's kind of intense. In Australia, they kind of had that thug, so to speak, that if you scored like 8 points in a row, there's some guy checking in the game that was going to foul you hard and throw you to the ground, which was kind of expected. Um, Interesting story in Illawarra. We were playing Illawarra. It's a small town outside of Sydney, I believe. I forgive me if I'm wrong, but they're the basket stanchions went towards where like the bar area where everyone watched the games. So late in the game, your offensive end happened to be at that end of the floor at the end of the game, and they would shake the basket. So you'd be shooting free throws. They grab the wires and shake the wires, and the basket would be going back and forth. So you don't see much of that in the NBA. You only see that in the NBL. So different experience, but great nonetheless.
You talked real quick about the physicality, in the Australian League. And my dad always talks about how the NBA now today is not the same as it was back then. And you played during, kind of, physical era. Would you compare the physicality, or was the Australian League like much tougher?
Just different rules, different kind of athlete here, a different kind of physicality. So in the NBA now, when you get to the basket, the rule of verticality that some know of, but rule of verticality in the NBA is where you stay in your own plane as long as you jump straight in the air and your hands are up and not going forward. You can meet that driving player with force, kind of, and
Yeah.
that's a 6'10" 240-pound individual that you didn't typically have overseas. So it's just a different kind of physicality. It's not as hands-on that you would see
Yeah.
overseas, but it's physical nonetheless. It's just in a different way.
You've played for a long time and you've also coached for a long time. What has the game of basketball taught you the most?
Um, Really, it's all about people. I mean, it's about your relationships with your teammates, with the guys you're coaching, with your colleagues. So I think it's a people business really, and the better you relate to people and can talk and communicate and have a good relationship, the better off you are. And if you know the most about basketball and you can't communicate it and it can't be received, it's wasted. So I think it's all
Yeah.
about your relationship with people for sure.
Now, like I mentioned, you were all on that 93, 94 winning championship team, the Houston Rockets. Real quick, what was that like winning a championship? I feel like many times it's a kid's goal to either say hit the game winning shot to win a championship or just to get a championship to begin with. Either it's little league or the pros. What was that feeling like and to play around those guys?
It was amazing. Um, to your point, you want to be the guy. Um,
Yeah,
but I was so young and was in the league for such a short period of time. I don't think I had like the utmost appreciation for it uh, at the time because I thought, oh gosh, this is what happens. You're in the NBA and you win a championship. But it was great. It was great to see the maturation of a winning team to become a championship team. It's very different, and we had some adversity. It was good to see leadership qualities of some of our main players kind of help us through the tough times and to relax us, and the leadership of our coaching. And we had great coaches. Rudy T's at the top of the food chain, but assistant coaches like Carol Dawson, like what he provided to the team was big time. So it was great to experience, and I feel privileged for it.
now, a lot of us, including my generation and younger, we've been watching The Last Dance and we're like, oh my God, I feel like we kind of missed the best era of basketball with the 80s and the 90s. But you got to play in that era. And like you just said, it was amazing. What was your favorite memory of that season or of your whole playing career?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. I think just moving a little bit back, like moving back, like into the early '80s. Growing up in New Jersey, like I was a Sixer fan, Sixer and Net fan, and that
Yeah,
era of basketball, like watching the Lakers, the Lake Show, the Pistons, the Nets at the time were very good. They had a solid basketball team, and the Sixers, like Milwaukee was great. Like there are a lot of really good teams, but to me, that was like the mecca of basketball. Like the early '80s, that kind of, for me at least, as a young person, really made me love the game. I think that's what it's all about, right? Like young people
yeah,
seeing the game played and like, I want to be that. I want to do that. And you can't tell me I
yeah.
can't do that. So it was cool. For me, the most, gosh, I don't know the second part of the question. That's really tough to answer. I talked to a friend the other night in an interview, and one of the most intense basketball moments I've ever been involved in my life was after my first year after college. I played in a championship series in Spain, and it was Real Madrid against Badalona, Juventud was who I was playing with. And that
Okay.
intensity, that crowd coming out of college, which we had fantastic crowds, like unbelievable, but heated coins and things being thrown on the court and the different noises and stuff, like, and the players that they had, that was a very unique experience. And I thought, to me, that was one of the most intense like basketball experiences I had, was that championship series in the ACB, in the top league in Spain.
Now, many people may say that winning a championship is their greatest achievement or the greatest goal that they've ever accomplished. But is there another goal that you feel like that tops that?
Another good question, man. You're on it, Jared. I think for a lot of aspiring NBA players, I mean, be it wrong or right, I think longevity has a lot of value. And I would not trade winning a championship for anything, but also hope to be a career NBA player, which I was not. So I, I think that the aspirations of longevity to me, a lot of times is kind of the precedent, right? You want to play at a high
Yeah,
level for a long period of time. So that wouldn't replace it, but it definitely is like the 1A, 1B.
understand. Now, you guys, in terms of the Atlanta Hawks, were kind of the last teams to play on the court before the season came to a close. When did you guys receive the message that the season was going to be postponed, not canceled, but postponed due to everything going on?
We found out 2 days after our last game. So I believe it was March 13th, if I'm not mistaken. Um, we had been aware, and our group was fantastic as far as being ahead of the curve. I think I don't know other 2019s, but I'd like to think that we were very proactive in trying to keep the awareness of what was going on around us. So we were the 2 days of practice that we had after our game. It was really different. The contact was different. The spacing and what we were trying to do had really been pulled back. So we found out like 2 days after that things were going to be suspended because we were in between games. But you kind of had that feel like that's where we're going.
Now, you have a veteran on your team, Vince Carter, who, like many thought, due to everything going on, this might be his final game. Was there an emotional, standpoint in terms of not only him but all the other players not knowing if the season was canceled?
It was just unprecedented, really. It was kind of a day to day thing, like what to think and what to do was basically being told to us because we just didn't know. We didn't know, but
Yeah.
just being conscious and looking around the world, we understood the severity of what was happening. So we understood that it might be a while.
Yeah. Now, other colleges like Montclair State with Coach Justin Potts, they hold their online Zoom meetings and they get the team together, and as well as many colleges do. Do you guys have a sort of format functioning like that? Like, do you guys get the team together? And if so, are there for Coach Potts, he offers tips and stuff to do during this quarantine. Do you guys do that as well?
Yeah, we kind of have a regiment of when we meet and talk to the guys. We have small groups that we do so that we can kind of be more one on one with guys. We do a group meeting with just the team. Us as coaches, we meet a couple of times. So there's a lot going on, and guys put a lot on social media and put things out there. But we've really tried to stay connected, and I think as a group, we've done a nice job of just getting to know each other better because we got downtime. We're not on the court, even though we
Yeah.
really appreciate our guys and getting to know them. It's been a good time for that.
Now you mentioned social media, and I just saw this post today, and it was a couple of days ago. I wanted to get your aspect of it because being a coach, I feel like you have a lot of influence on the young players. There was an interviewer who it was during one of LeBron James' run for the finals, and he was kind of asking LeBron how does he always come up clutch in certain moments, and LeBron kind of laughed at it because he said that there's not many people that see him as a clutch player. And my question to you is with all the negativity that may come through social media or through online articles, how do you make sure that your players may see that but not have that impact, emotionally or impact their game?
It's tough, um, because the perception piece is so much greater than it was. And even back in the day of being in Cleveland and coaching Bron, things were different. It's a different environment that we're in right now, and a different upbringing from a lot of our young players because we're a very young team, as you know. So their perception of what they need to be or what people need to perceive them as being is difficult. And the sooner the guys rally around one another rather than what's out there and out and about, the better
Yeah.
we're going to be. And that's the bottom line, because the less distractions you have, and the more you are joined together, the better team you're going to be. Just that's the way sport works, right? Like that's how it works.
Yes.
So it's a
Yes.
it's tough though. It's a tough dynamic.
Now, you also did coach in your alma mater in Ohio State. And did you teach any young players life lessons? And what were those lessons that you would teach them?
Well, it's a long list. Really, I really try to start like most people that are older. I'm 50, so I'm trying to help young people. And it's just being consistent, keeping it simple, be on time, be reliable, be hardworking. It's just not that hard. It's really not that hard. If you're a talented individual and you are reliable, you can be on time and you work your tail off, good things will happen. It's just the way it works. And especially a university like Ohio State, if you show that you are built like that, there's 15 people who want to give you a job. So if
Yeah.
basketball doesn't work out, there's a lot of people, there's a line of folks that would love to have you working for their company. So I try to kind of simplify it, and the main thing being to try to represent that. So I need to be like that. And if I'm preaching it, if
Yeah.
I'm teaching, I got to preach it. I got to be it. So trying to keep it simple, because to me, that's the most important thing. Simplify things and see how it works.
Now, do you also teach that same lesson to the young players on your team now, like Trey Young and others?
Oh yeah. Um, my initial frame of thought, what 17 years ago, coming into the NBA as a young coach, was to make sure I could develop a work ethic amongst the young players that they could be successful in the NBA. So Willie Green, Kyle Korver, that young rookie group in Philadelphia, my first year coaching. My main goal was like, I need to show these guys how they can stay in, and it was
Yeah.
kind of came down to those things. And fortunately for me, those guys already represented that. Like they were already
Yeah.
coming in with the league with a mindset of second round draft pick. I got to make this work. But that was always like Jameer Nelson, my second year in the NBA. Like, Mir, this way it's got to be, man. Like, you got to be the hardest working. You got to make 1,000 shots a day type thing. And it becomes routine. It be just from, if it is preached from day one, it just becomes a way of life.
Now, did you have any inspiration in terms of anyone you looked up to playing basketball or anyone that motivated you in general?
A lot of people, man. Like, that's a long list. That's a long list.
Yeah.
Starting with my pops, my brothers were inspirational. Um, I loved as a young kid watching Chris Mullin play, lefty, obviously same complexion, like got it done, like well respected. And then moving on, there were a lot of people that I really looked up to, and Dr. J was my favorite player growing up, so he was an inspiration for me to dunk. I was like, I'm in eighth grade, I got to dunk a ball. Like Doc is dunking, I got to get it done. So I think it always, it's got a lot of different layers to it, but within
Yeah.
the game, there's always people you're looked up to. But I think the main guy for me as a youth was my high school coach. And Dennis Tobin was a great player who had kind of broken the seal in our area. He was from our area, not known for basketball, but he had gone into the inner city and hooped and been successful. And without his guidance, I don't know if I would have been stagnant and stationary and gone into Jersey City and Newark and kind of expounded my game. But he was, if there was any one person that kind of catapulted my basketball, it was definitely Coach Tobin.
Now, do you play or do you go one-on-one with any of the guys in practice to just give them a kind of run for their money, or do you just lay back and your playing career is done, so you're not gonna try that anymore?
If my body's feeling good, I might hoop a little bit, but for the most part, it's shooting. So I'll stand out there and cast threes, and if they can beat me, they can beat me. But I'll
Okay.
roll the dice on that one.
You also, like I said, you played in the 90s, a lot of great players there, but you've also coached a lot of great players, like you mentioned, Corver and Braun. Who's the guy? I asked Coach Potts, who's not the, I asked Coach Potts, who's the greatest player of all time. And he told me he was like Michael Jordan, no doubt. But that's not the question that I want to ask. I want to ask who's the greatest that you've seen personally?
I mean, personally, on a regular basis, definitely LeBron. Just because you spend 3 years watching a guy every day, and LeBron did stuff in practice that was better than the stuff he does in the games, which is kind of ridiculous to think about.
In terms
Um,
of only dunking, or shooting as well?
no, just dominance. Like there was a certain competitive edge to LeBron. So LeBron gets knocked, compared to that mentality of MJ, which is understandable. But that's one of the most competitive people I've ever been around in his own way. Like he's going to find a way to win by using his teammates as well. MJ was like, I'm going to find a way to win. And he had to use his teammates as well at times, right? Like it's shown Last Dance, he had to use his teammates,
Yeah,
but his mindset was, I'm going to do it. And LeBron
yeah.
was like, nah, we're going to win, but I'm going to find a way to win. And it might be my teammate taking a shot. And I think where LeBron gets a little bit slighted is, and I know MJ was a good defender, but LeBron at times in his successful experiences, he guards like everybody. Like there were
Yeah,
times when we played in the playoffs where he would be the low man and he'd be the lowest guy in the defense. He would be in the paint. He'd close out to a shooter. He'd run him off the line. He'd block his shot. He'd rebound it. Like he did some things of a winning quality that aren't documented. So to me, it's LeBron as far as experience goes. I have not, I haven't played with Mike. Hakeem Olajuwon was probably the best player that I played with on a regular basis. It just his ability to do everything offensively, defensively, to me was pretty impressive.
speaking of the transition with leagues, you have the 90s and now you have today. You have kind of in the 90s more, or the 80s as well, like kind of jump shots, two pointers only. That's how like we call it, or that's how I call it with my dad. I'm like, nobody's shooting threes over here. And now you have guys like Trey Young and Steph Curry. What is that transition like, seeing it and as well now coaching it?
Yeah, it's very different, and it's interesting though. Like I'm a shooter. I love threes, right?
Yeah,
But I have so much value on the made shot. I just like guys that can score.
yeah,
Me personally, and I think that's been a little bit lost because back then you couldn't play if you couldn't score. So you were like you wouldn't be allowed on the court if you couldn't put the ball in the basket. You weren't of much value on the floor because of just different elements. And I think that's been lost in specialization. So, okay, you can shoot a three, you can make a 3-point shot, but that's all you can do? Like, are you really a really good
Yeah.
basketball player? I don't know. So it's interesting the way the game has changed. But to me, especially in the fourth quarter, you just have guys that can, you just need people out there that need to be guarded and they can put the ball in the basket. And that has definitely changed.
Trey, as well as many others like Steph and many other players around the league, have amazing 3-point range. What is the first thing that goes to your mind when you see, Trey Young pull up past half court and just launch it? Do you think he's going to make it, or do you have to hold your breath for an instant second and just hopefully it goes in?
You got two of them. So, you know, you make your first, you might get three, but that's a risky shot because,
Yeah.
if you, to your point, if you miss it and it's at the wrong time of the game, it's detrimental, just like anything else. So I think Trey's ability and his uncanny range is it's really strange. Like the way he can make shots from so far away it's nuts. But
You,
every
my
shot
bad.
can be a bad shot, and every shot can be a good shot.
You mentioned being LeBron's coach, like you helped coach LeBron, and I've looked up and he has given you credit in terms of changing his shot. Are there any tips and advice that you could give young players in terms of improving their shot or just improving their free throw shot?
It's really repetition, and you got to start in close. If you want to improve as a shooter, volume is fantastic, but you don't. If you're an okay shooter, you don't want to try to improve from the 3-point line. You want to try to improve from the paint. And
Yeah.
I'm a form shooting guy. Credit to Mr. Hobby. God rest his soul, one of the best shooting coaches ever, a New Jersey guy that coached shooting and that I learned how to shoot from doing camps at Sparta High School when I was in seventh grade and watching him do what he does in form shooting. And I think the form of things, the structure, the muscle memory needs to be developed from in close to the basket. And if you're a young player and you miss 3 in a row from outside, you got to move it in, and you got to see 20 go in, and that's really important. And the volume is key. We shot for hours, and if you're not shooting for hours, and if you're not just a natural shooter, you're not going to be a great shooter. It's not going to happen. It takes time. It takes effort and discipline. So if you want to spend 3 hours a day shooting, fantastic, but don't spend all of it behind the 3-point line. And then for free throws, it's a rhythm, and you have to me, you got to keep it simple. And LeBron and I would argue all the time. You keep changing it up. I'm like, man, you got to stay with the same one. Like you got to stay with the same one, and if it doesn't work, you just got to stick with it. But I think that a simple routine to help your mindset, because you never know when you're going to shoot free throws, right? They might be the biggest free throws of the game. They might be in the first quarter, but having a routine to ease your mind and to make you comfortable is important.
Justin Porter, a player on Coach Potts' Montclair State basketball team, just graduated, and there was a moment. It was senior day, and he got fouled from the 3-point line, and the team is down by 3. And I'm the social media intern, so I'm supposed to record everything, take pictures of everything. And JP easily knocks down all 3 free throws. And unfortunately, they lost after the game. But I told them later, I was like, JP, I couldn't even look at you because I was so nervous because it's a big moment. But once again, he kept it simple. He has a simple free throw routine. And the one thing he told me, he was like, Jared, I've been doing this for as long as I can remember, practicing the free throw shot. So I thought that was really interesting that you brought that up. The second to last question I'll ask you is, you mentioned back then how it was important for you to kind of play defense and be a good shooter. Do you feel like that has changed now in terms of some players are just great in terms of defense and can shoot a little bit, or do you feel like they still need to be balanced to make it into the NBA or any other league?
Well, there's a place for all types of players in every league. You know, defense wins, and if you can defend, you're going to have a chance because coach is going to put you on the floor. I mean, regardless of the scoring that's going on, which is it's great, right? Our game is fantastic. It's great to watch, but there's niches. You know, there's areas of basketball that take a Dennis Rodman. You know, the conversation has come up in
Yeah,
our small group stuff with the team about how good would Dennis Rodman be nowadays. Dennis Rodman would dominate because he would have 22 rebounds a game, and that's dominating. You know,
yeah,
so there are places for everyone. It's just a matter of when you get on the court, do what you do. If you're a rebounder, rebound, don't shoot. It's not. It's kind of if you're a great defensive player, then defend and guard the best player. Like, hey, coach, I got him. I got you. Need hit. You want me to stop him? I got it. And coaches love that. When you're a young player and you want to put yourself out there and be like, hey, coach, you know, I know he's hot, but let me guard him. So there's places for everybody.
I love that. And lastly, you've been in the game for a long time. You've had a great, basketball career. What keeps you going? I know, I mean, you have an amazing job. When Coach Justin Potts said, would you like to interview this gentleman? And I said, absolutely, no brainer. You've had an illustrious career. You're a champion. Now you're a coach, and you've been a coach for a while. And now you're a coach in this era. What keeps you going?
The game, really, the game, Jared. I tell you, I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine life without the game. I have a great
Yeah,
family, and I would revert to my family. But the game itself, man, I've had a passion for basketball since the age of 13, and it's an amazing sport. It is an amazing game. Great way to bond with people, really get to know people very well, and get to interact with them, be in different environments, different competitive environments. It just
yeah.
really the drive to me. My salvation when I was a kid was I took a ball and I could walk outside, no one could bother me, and I could shoot hoops. And I can still do that today.
I still do that today as
Yeah,
well.
and that's sport, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Jen, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate this time, and I love the stories you told, especially about LeBron. I told Coach Potts, LeBron is my favorite player of all time, no
Don't
question
blame me.
about it. So I really do appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
All
so
right, take
much.
care.
Well, that'll do it for episode 5 of Under Review. Once again, thank you to Mr. Jen for joining me today. And thank you for everybody who's listening, everybody who's following the Instagram page and the Twitter page. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.